The book I'm going to read for you today happens to be one of my favorite books ever. And I really love it because it has amazing pictures. So I'm going to try to hold the pictures up closely so you can see they have lots and lots of detail on each picture. So you have to look closely, be a detective, but look at all the interesting things going on in every picture on every page. The name of the book is The Relatives Came. Relatives are your family. And the author, that's the person that wrote the words, is Cynthia Reliant, and the illustrator is Stephen Gamble. All right, The Relatives Came. Look at this very first picture. Do you think that's in the morning, at night? It looks still dark. And what are they doing? Looks like they're loading their car, getting ready, and they have lots of things to fit inside their car. All right, here we go. It was in the summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left when their grapes were nearly purple enough to pick, but not quite. So they live in a place called Virginia. It's not Texas where you live and I live. It's far away. They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and in it they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some boxes of crackers and some bologna sandwiches, and up they came from Virginia. They left at 4 in the morning when it was still dark, before even the birds were awake. So it said they left at 4 in the morning, it was still dark, and the birds weren't even awake yet. Look at their car, has lots of things, and it looks like something's already falling off, doesn't it? Uh-oh, look what happened to the mailbox when they were leaving. Womp, womp, womp. They drove all day long and into the night, and while they traveled along, they looked at all the strange houses in different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they also thought about us too, and thought about us waiting for them. Do you see the road is winding around the mountain, and there are funny houses on the edge of the mountain? Do you think you would like to live in this house? It might be a little bit scary for me. So they drank up all their soda and ate up all their crackers and traveled up to all those miles until finally they pulled into our yard. Have you ever waited for somebody to get to your house and they get there and you're so excited and you run out to say hello? Uh-oh, what happened when they pulled the car up? Uh-oh. Then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Those relatives just passed us all around their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours. Now look at all these people, and they are so excited to see each other, and they're hugging and squeezing. Some are squeezing a little too much, and they're so excited to see each other. Then it was into the house, and so much laughing and shining faces and hugging in the doorways. You'd have to go through at least 4 different hugs just to get from the kitchen to the front room. Those relatives. Now look, we can see inside their windows and look at all the things happening inside the house. They have a lot of people in that house, don't they? They look squished, but everyone looks happy. Finally, after a big supper, 2 or 3 times around until we all got our turn at the table, there was quiet talk. And we were in 2s and 3s. through the house. So people sat down and they had quiet talk. And they sat down and visited 2 or 3 at a time. But first, they ate. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was good since there were not any extras. So a few squeezed in with us and the rest slept on the floor, some with their arms thrown over the closest person to them, some with their arms thrown across one person and a leg across another. It was different going to sleep with all the new breathing in the house. People were making lots of noise and they were squished and their arms and legs were getting on other people and they were breathing loud. That little girl cannot sleep because it was too noisy. She's sitting there saying, "Oh, do you think there was any snoring?" I bet there was some snoring. This guy looks to me like he might be snoring. The relatives stayed for weeks and weeks, and they helped us tend the garden. They fixed any broken things that they could find. Now, let's see if you can see some of the things happening in this picture. Someone's getting a haircut. He's playing piggyback ride. These people are fixing a toy. What else do you see? Gardening. Looks like they're making a fort with some boxes. Such great pictures. They ate up all the strawberries and the melons, then promised that we could eat up all their grapes and peaches when we come to Virginia. They're still working, but some people are making music, and I see some instruments. Do you see instruments? Do you recognize any of those instruments? Maybe a bass and a guitar, some kind of drum, perhaps. Do you know what this is? It's a violin. Some people call it a fiddle, but it's also a violin. But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging and eating and breathing together. They're having a great time all together. Look, some are getting their picture taken. They're having to be very still. Do you see them? Finally, after a long time, the relatives loaded up their ice chests and headed back to Virginia at 4 in the morning. They headed back to Virginia, and we stood there in our pajamas and waved them off in the dark. We watched the relatives disappear down the road, and then we crawled back into our beds, and we felt too big. Oh, guess what? Now the beds felt too big, and it was too quiet. We finally fell asleep because they had had those people in their beds for so long that now their beds felt very big. And they were used to all the sounds of those people sleeping, and now it felt very quiet. But they waved to their relatives, and their relatives were leaving. And remember, it was 4 in the morning, so it was still dark outside. The relatives drove on all day long and into the night. And while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses in different mountains, and they thought about their dark purple grapes waiting for them in Virginia. But they also thought about us too, missing them, and they missed us. Do you see the bridge? I see a bridge going over. They had to drive on it. When they were finally home in Virginia, they crawled into their silent, soft beds, and they dreamed about the next summer. Because they're going to get to visit their relatives again, aren't they? The next summer, they'll get to go and see their relatives, or their relatives will come to their house and visit them the next summer. The relatives came. It's really a great book, and it has fantastic pictures. So if you ever get a chance to check this one out at the library, you need to get it. And it also, did you see it won an award? Wow, it won a prize. It's such a great book. I love you, and I'll see you soon.